You lost your temper today. Maybe it was the traffic or an email that sat wrong in your chest. But when you finally let it out, when you snapped, went on a rant, or slammed a door, you felt a little lighter. That physical relief is real, and our entire culture expects it. We treat anger like steam trapped inside a boiling kettle. We assume that if you build up too much pressure, you have to let a little hiss out the top, or you explode. This idea feels like common sense because we learned it as children. A toddler throws a tantrum, screams until their small body is exhausted, and finally sleeps. But we grew into adults mistaking that physical depletion for actual emotional resolution. If that relief is real, it is worth asking why the anger keeps returning. It suggests a possibility most of us have never considered, that every time we let it out, we are actually training ourselves to stay angry. The idea that we need to purge strong emotions goes all the way back to the ancient Greeks and their concept of catharsis. Centuries later, Sigmund Freud built this idea directly into his model of the human mind. Freud pictured emotion as a hydraulic fluid inside a sealed system. If it doesn't go somewhere, it bursts. But that picture is biologically false. Your nervous system is not a holding tank of fluid that can simply be emptied. Anger is a pattern of activity in your brain. When you act it out, you aren't purging a system. You are carving a behavioral pattern deeper into your mind, ensuring the next eruption happens even faster. To measure what actually happens when a person decides to let it out, psychologist Brad Bushman ran an experiment. He had people write an essay, then had a stranger tear it apart with a cruel personal insult. Once the subjects were properly furious, he split them up. Half sat quietly, while the other half hit a punching bag while picturing the person who humiliated them. When given a chance to retaliate later, the results were entirely counterintuitive. The people who engaged in the fantasy of venting their anger on the bag were not calmer. They were more aggressive, more punishing, and far more eager to hurt their insulter. This happens because of neuroplasticity. The brain strengthens the connections it uses most. Neurons that fire together wire together. When you run the exact same pattern of thought and feeling, that specific emotional pathway grows more automatic. So when you grip the steering wheel and replay a grievance, or call 3 different friends to relive an insult, you are doing reps in the gym of your own worst temper. You are not burning off a fixed amount of rage. You are building endurance for it. The relief you feel is the satisfaction of getting stronger at the exact emotion you wish you were weaker at. This 2024 meta-analysis covered 154 studies and 10,000 people. When sorting anger strategies, evidence overwhelmingly favored calming activities. The findings were brutal. Arousal-increasing activities, like hitting, venting, or even jogging, did nothing to reduce anger. They kept the body lit up instead of settling. Even talking it out has a trap, known as co-rumination. When 2 people rehash the same problem over and over, feeding each other's outrage, they aren't healing. They are building a shrine to the wound. The real-world stakes of this behavior are high. Following the September 11th attacks, psychological studies tracked how people processed the tragedy. Those who heavily vented their fear and distress were experiencing higher anxiety 4 months later than those who did not. Living in a state of rehearsed anger demands a heavy compounding toll. Your body stays flooded with stress chemistry, your heart rate climbs, and your relationships suffer as people learn to walk cautiously around you. A mind hijacked by its own alarm system cannot reason well. The chronically angry man might feel like a powerful force of nature in the moment, but he is actually a hostage, entirely ruled by his own temper. If we cannot punch, run, or talk the anger away, we have to look closely at how the brain actually processes intense emotion. This is exactly what neuroscientist Matthew Lieberman investigated at UCLA. He put subjects in a brain scanner and showed them angry faces. Immediately, the amygdala, the brain's primitive alarm bell for fight or flight, lit up with activity. But when he asked them to consciously label the emotion, when they attached a single word like angry to what they were feeling, a neurological switch flipped. The amygdala powered down, handing control over to the slower, deliberate prefrontal cortex behind the forehead. Attaching a name to the feeling functions as a literal mechanical brake on the nervous system. This modern brain scan perfectly mirrors a discipline the Roman Stoics practiced 2,000 years ago. The philosopher Seneca taught that anger is a short madness. His strategy was to catch it at the very first physical spark, the tightened jaw, the shallow breath, the heat in the face, and stop it before it took control of his mind. The Emperor Marcus Aurelius took this a step further. Every morning he proactively rehearsed his own calm, reminding himself that he would meet dishonest and arrogant people, inoculating himself against their insults before the day even began. You can build this exact same break. The next time the heat rises and your instincts scream at you to let it out, pause. Take one slow breath. Do nothing outward, and honestly name the feeling. By refusing to perform the rehearsal, you allow the physical arousal to fall on its own. This discipline avoids the buildup of a silent story and the exhaustion of a physical outburst. True discipline is choosing to carve a new path. By stopping the cycle of venting, you master your own nervous system, answering the world on your own terms, rather than exploding at it as its hostage.